Well, we've reached that point. You Guild Wars 2 fans out there knew it was coming. Now it's here. Yeah, we're going to Living World Season 3. We also did a jumping puzzle. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to continue our journey into Guild Wars 2. And can I just say, all the heartfelt messages you guys are sending me on a daily basis who have gotten into Guild Wars 2 has been amazing. And I can say in the future, we will be talking with the game director, hopefully. And also, we have a big transmog competition up with a load of free stuff to give away. We'll have some details for you soon on that. But I want to clarify, yes, we are coming to the end of what Project MMO was about with Guild Wars 2, which is finishing the raids. But not to worry. This is absolutely a game I'm going to continue on with. I'm not going to be like daily, like one gaming it, but we're absolutely going to stick with Guild Wars 2. We're going to do the strikes. We're going to finish out End of Dragons. We're going to do all that stuff. And of course, new content when it comes in. Having so much fun with that. And Living World Season 3 is really the big turning point for me in terms of, one, getting into the raiding. You saw in the last video, we've started the raid wings and seeing them correct. And this is what ArenaNet, I think, has been doing so well over the course of this journey, is spotting their flaws, spotting the mistakes, spotting the things that clearly have problems and making them better. If I was to describe anything along this journey of what my thoughts are with ArenaNet and Guild Wars 2, is always improving, always looking for where the cracks are and filling them and trying to improve, but not just fixing those things, making the stuff that they already do even better. A quick list that's Living World Season 3 really highlighted for me. One, the voice acting. I now really like my character. When I started Guild Wars 2, I disliked my character very heavily. Now I want her to talk more. That voice actor has so much more freedom. They've given so much more variety and depth to that character. No longer sounds stupid. In fact, had a really great moment during Living World Season 3 where we had a character that was clearly untrustworthy. And even FF14 has been guilty of this with like Asahi and Hien, where it's like, clearly this character is just nightmare fuel. And it's like, oh, let's give him a chance. In this, it was like, this guy is clearly sus. And I was like, oh, thank God, my character's not a moron. An absolute moron. Love that.
Given what happened today, I'd feel a little better if someone I knew was watching the chamber.
Not you, though.
Someone you trust.
Correct.
Yes. So could you ask Tiny to get me right away?
You're joking with me. I take that as a good sign.
You've been a lot of things, Kate, but you've never been an enemy of this dragon.
The characters. There is so much character focus now that I have characters I really like and really dislike. And that's so important for me to engage with your story, is to understand their motivations. They're clear, they're consistent, they're what we want to know. We learn a bit more about them. And also, we don't need to focus on them all the time now because we've got that establishment. And now we can look at other characters really well, like big villains. We can give them attention, which is why I think in Living World Season 3, Lazarus and Balthazar came across really fantastically. They were so cool because we could invest in them and our characters responded in the way they should do without just drafting in a bunch of other characters like we saw with the base game. That was really cool. The zone design has gotten so much better, especially since the kind of nightmarish feeling I had in Heart of Thorns. This was much better. Bloodstone Fen, fantastic. The blood misty feel of it. It felt like the Maw, but in a good way from World of Warcraft. And really dark, but they learned from the verticality. And that's what's important to me, is that verticality was really good in Heart of Thorns, but it had problems. I said in there, it's like, I don't want to spend 12, 13 hours in a zone to learn how to navigate it. That's not particularly fun and can kind of get really tedious. Sure, it's cool to be the expert in it, but that's not fun at the start. They threw in a load of ley lines. Yes, it's as vertical, but they gave you good, clear pathways, nice open areas to get out of there and see where you were supposed to go, as well as good teleporting right up to the airship so you could dive down into it. Awesome. Absolutely perfect. And I felt that as they went through the Fire Islands and then over to the Frozen Wastes, really stark contrast. Reminded me a lot of like going from, say, Westfall to Duskwood in World of Warcraft, where the atmosphere changes dramatically. Similar with Dark Souls, moving into Blighttown and the entire aesthetic and color scheme changing into something really radically different. Same with FF14, going through a dungeon where you kind of know, because they do their dungeons very formulaically, is just 3 completely separate environments to keep you engaged and keep you interested. And even though this was obviously a fire-focused, sort of, we'll talk about that in a second, it also included frozen wastelands and things like that. Really, really good. But the biggest focus for me, where they've really picked up their game, has been on the story. And this has invested me heavily now into the story. I care about the egg. I care about the new characters. The only difficulty I'm having is that I did not play Guild Wars 1. I don't know much of that lore. So obviously there were moments that you will know about in Living World Season 3 where it just didn't land for me, but that's okay. I accept that as part of the situation. So the reveal of like Lazarus and Balthazar and having Cass react to who's very religious and say, oh my God, the gods are, oh no. And I'm just like, who's here? Okay. I guess. Like it's very dramatic in game. And I'm just like, okay, it's one of those things, but that's okay. Let's focus on the story a little bit here. So the story beats in Living World Season 3 are where they're trying to open up themselves, is what I would describe it as from a gameplay and a storytelling point of view. It doesn't always land, but that risk is worth it to find where your boundaries are. And I'm talking about pacing and the inclusion of more comedy. Now, Guild Wars 2, I was very surprised by, and we found this out very early. Not afraid of comedy. Big head mode exists. Stupid toys exist. They have retro 8-bit zones. They have all this kind of really silly stuff. But most of the time, because FF14 has the same thing, as does World of Warcraft, is they try and keep that separate from like the main story. That should be taken seriously. It's got a bit more of a precious feel to it. All those kinds of things. But now they're throwing a lot more comedy into the main story. Not that it didn't exist before, but now it's a bit more on the nose. And they really sort of pushed the boundaries of where it can go. And I think with Season 3, that created some story missteps and pacing, which I didn't really find in Season 2. For example, you're birthing a brand new dragon. Aurene exists. The Crystal Dragon has all the powers of the dragons, or I assume Aurene's going to have all the powers of the dragon. And at the same time, there is the God of War. There's this character that is this Lazarus who has risen, this ancient being that has risen. And at the same time, you also need to go and meet the Shadow Stealthy Council, or whoever the hell they were, and do their initiation rites, where they're just like throwing water and stones at you and dropping boulders on you, and they have you doing all these weird, and it feels like a high school reenactment of some kind, like a high school play, where half the people don't want to be there, and one of the kids wrote it, so all the parents have to attend, even though it kind of sucks. That's going on, and I can't take that seriously. While all this epicness is happening, at the same time, it's like, but by the way, there's this too, that's going along with it.
By the quenching of her metal.
How is the petitioner tested for resolve?
By the shaping of her metal. We are the enemies of the shining
Just throwing
blade.
rocks at me?
You will reveal all their secrets to us.
You will, or your life is forfeit.
Then I will take my sincerity to my grave. You are wrong.
What the hell? Guys! So that was... The pacing was a little off sometimes. I think the best example of this, actually, was Aurene. When you want your audience to love a character, it's important that you make them enjoy the time they spend with that character. I think that's a pretty standard thing. They didn't quite hit the mark with Aurene. And this is actually a problem that nearly every game runs into at some point, and it feels like something that should be fixed in testing, is, and you guys will all relate to this, is you will get a quest or a task in a video game that's relatively simple and kind of okay, and usually pretty quick to do. And then for some reason, they have you repeat it like 6 to 10 times on occasions. To the point that you're just like, I'm so over this. I'm so done with it. I got the point on quest 1, right? I got the point on the first time I did this. And with Aurene, they wanted you to bond. So they had you doing these like little trials to make friends with Aurene and teach Aurene. In principle, this is cool. And the actual idea of it, of playing hide and seek, to build that connection and then helping people, that's great. But God, did they have you do the same thing over and over again. So it lasts minutes and minutes, and it feels so padded out, and it makes you frustrated and makes you dislike Aurene. And I'm not a huge fan of Aurene. I'm sorry, don't hit me. I'm not a fan of Aurene. I kind of think she's going to be a villain. That's dragons are bad in Guild Wars, sort of, that's kind of a thing. That's a problem. And also, like, the gameplay I had with her kind of sucked. So even with the Lazarus fight where I was just running around, it sucked. Protecting the birth of Aurene. Not a big fan of this. Not a big fan of this. But along with that, the story overall was pretty good. Obviously, this is the setup for Path of Fire. I now know Path of Fire is not going to be dragon-based, I don't think. It's going to be about Balthazar. He's the god of war, and he's definitely a Bernie boy that's going along with that. And Balthazar's stuff was really cool. Like, super cool. And I was desperately hoping coming into Living Will Season 3, because historically, the endings of Guild Wars 2 stories, like the chapter endings at the end of, like, the base game or the end of Season 2, Season 1, have been a letdown. They've Mordramoth would be the best example of this. Is the outdoor boss is fantastic, but the actual story thing you do where you go inside, it was like, I mean, it was fine, but it kind of finished very, very quickly. It wasn't very good, but thankfully, they seem to have turned that around again, finding those flaws and doing much, much better with it. The Cordicus fight did completely suck. Why they put you in a tiny little room where the camera doesn't work to fight that boss, and he's a big ass boss, I don't know. I have no idea why they did that. But the coolest fight I actually did wasn't the finale of the story. It was actually Balthazar's dogs down in the dragon pit. That's epic. And again, once again, ArenaNet does such a good job with large-scale monsters. Like, better than anyone else I've seen. Large-scale animations and monsters. They're so good at it that they can create these massive, epic, enthralling environments. Be it Mordramoth or down in the pit with a giant dragon that you've got to bully. They do it so freaking well. It's a joy to play. Loved that. That was my favorite fight of the whole living world. Lazarus's fight at the end was okay. It was all right. It was a culmination. I wouldn't. It's not as good as the other one. It had some cool mechanics to it. I really like the finale with charging through and stabbing something in the face. That was very cool. But there are some little points I want to talk about, especially in terms of character development. There are characters that have definitely been left behind that needed some love. In fact, my favorite, I think, in Living Will Season 3 was Queen Jennah. Queen Jennah was a character I didn't particularly care for and was kind of a meme. She walks around with no shoes on. She's always, like, doing stuff but then stopping. And you get told somebody's very important, but you don't see it. So you kind of don't feel anything for them. And she also has this complete idiot Logan running around after her, who I'm pretty sure keeps stealing her shoes so he can sniff them. That's why she doesn't wear them anymore, because they just keep disappearing. She's not sure why. We know. We know he's a shoe sniffer. But there was a scene in Living World Season 3 where she became a fucking great character. She sealed all these enemies in a court, and then it was full Star Wars. Emperor Palpatine. She was like force choking people and shit.
For this reason, I'm hereby suspending the ministry until the danger has passed. Some of you will understand it's for your safety. Others will understand that I have trapped them here.
Look at these ministers trying to defend democracy. Not on my watch.
Getting healthy.
For Queen Jennah! Emperor Jennah! Emperor Jennah has your best interests at heart. It was absolutely nuts. Absolutely loved that. And those kind of, again, those build-ups of characters that need a little bit of love and attention, magnifique. Absolutely magnifique. Overall, this was just better and better. And that's what I'm seeing from Guild Wars 2 on this journey so far, is it just get better and better and better. Let's talk about the jumping puzzle a bit. So, jumping puzzles that I believe or I have a thought are designed to frustrate you, I want nothing to do with. For context, I have finished and 100%ed every Mario game that exists, as well as done some very, very hard jumping games. I've done those. I am not a fan of things like I want to be the Boshi. I am not a fan of things like getting over it and stuff like that. And when I see, certainly as a streamer, people saying you should go and do X jumping puzzle, Pepe laugh. No! I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. That's it. I'm done. I'm out. Okay. No. Fuck
is
me!
A mosaic of pleasure and pain. Grief.
Jesus!
Between two moments of joy.
Why?
Is the interlude between.
There it is. No. God, that fucking. I'm done. I'm done. I'm done. It's over. I've had enough. I'm pretty sure it's designed to frustrate and annoy me, and I avoided as much as possible jumping puzzles in Guild Wars 2. But For the sake of entertainment, we set a little goal so that at least like a sub goal. So if a certain amount of subs is hit, then we'll go into the jumping puzzle. So at least, you know, we get some twin benefit out of my torment, is the way we could look at it. And Abaddon's Ascent is what was chosen for me. And I really liked it. I actually had a ton of fun with it. It did not do the things that I thought it was going to do. Every location I had to go to kind of made sense. I did it blind, did it without any help whatsoever. And jumping through and finding those things was really fun. And it was a nice culmination of things. It was tricky in places, but it made sense what I was supposed to do. It also provided checkpoints. I had no idea they would do that. So that if you did fall, you weren't punished unnecessarily. So you could work on each section at a time. And yeah, it took me a while, but reaching the top was a really fantastic moment. And I actually don't mind probably doing some more jumping puzzles in the future, because I know many of you over on YouTube who don't get to catch the stream have been a big proponent of me doing those. And this was actually a nice surprise. I was avoiding them based on what I feared they might be compared to what it actually turned out to be. So I know there's some more. There's a chalice and something else that people want me to do. So I'll probably look at those and maybe we'll do a little video on those things. But so far, man, very, very impressed with where Guild Wars 2 is going. And now we're moving into the Path of Fire expansion. And I'm thinking that it's going to be cool. And I'm actually looking forward to a less dragon focus. Although we do have this new dragon that's a baby. So it'll probably be like Guardians of the Galaxy. We'll have like teenage dragon and probably elder dragon at some point along that road. So stay tuned for that. We'll be back soon with Path of Fire.